Thank you, and I want to thank you for your vision and collaboration over the years. And I love the slide that you had on right before. I'll give a little bit of a background on State Chamber, and then I'll go through some of the things that we've been working on in the legislative realm, because the State Chamber, we're really a policy and advocacy shop. And then talk about some of the things related to our vision, how we can work together as we develop Texas to be the capital of the physical AI space. So at State Chamber of Commerce, we represent about 1,500 businesses and well over 250 chambers across the state of Texas. And we work with the leading economic development corporations as well. And our purpose is really to unleash the free market to achieve prosperity for all. And I'll explain a little bit later why that is so important. But our day job, we're located in Austin, right across from the Capitol, is to really bring the business community to advocate on behalf of policies that make us more competitive. And when you think about the AI space, this is where everything is going, and there's been a lot of discussion. We're all aware of generative AI, and by the way, these comments are human prepared, so I can't blame my BFF Grok 3 for any errors. It's coming from me. But what David has really recognized is that connecting what's going on generative AI and things like that with the physical space is incredibly important. And I would argue that Texas is very, very well positioned to lead in this area. We've got, you think about Tesla, a huge part of its value is related to what it's doing in the robotic sector. F50 is another Texas-based company that is set to lead in robotics. So on the and I want to frame things before I get into some of the stuff on the state legislative side, because I think that's really important. Just want to frame where we are, economically in the state of Texas, because I think that's important for people to understand that we're the center of gravity now economically, certainly in the country. We have been adding more jobs than any other state for a number of years. Our GDP, so we've got easily the best economy in the country, and people and businesses continue to migrate here. As a way of example, when I was born in New York, and it wasn't 100 years ago, although I'll admit I'm closer to 100 than zero, Texas had 60% of the population of New York, 60% Texas. Now Texas is 31 million and growing, and New York is 19.5 million and shrinking. And that's before they elect a socialist to be mayor of New York City. Good luck with that. So the center, you take a look economically where we are as a state in this country, we're tops. But now, when you look at how Governor Abbott and his outstanding economic development team look at things, we're really a country. Our GDP now is 2.7 trillion. That would put us as the 8th largest economy in the world. And let's just say, who's number 7? France. France isn't exactly the most stable place right now. I would expect by the end of the year, we will be number 7. We will be in the G7 economically. So I'd say we have the best economy in the world, fastest growing economy. But now, in honor of SpaceX successfully launching number 11, and they're headquartered in Texas, why don't we just say we have the best economy in the galaxy? And then the question is, how do we keep that? How do we maintain it? Before I get to the state stuff, though, I think it is important to frame, and I believe, David, all of our actions in Texas should be connected and consistent with the White House's America's AI Action Plan. I don't know how many, could I just ask, how many in the room have read that plan? It's about 23. Okay, I would urge everyone here to read it. I worked in a past life, I worked on Capitol Hill for a while. This is the best federal government, White House, economic blueprint I've seen in my life. It had 90 plus actionable items, mostly on the federal government, but a lot that we could complement on the state and local level for the United States to win the AI race. And I think the physical AI piece of this is going to be extremely important because that is an area where China seems to be doing fairly well. So the three pillars of the administration's America's AI Action Plan, and this was released as part of the All-In Summit, basically hosted this event in July. Number one, accelerate and innovate in AI. Number two, develop the infrastructure necessary, and that means energy and workforce. So there's a lot of things we could do on the Texas level. And number three is make sure that the world adopts America's AI tech stack. And that's something that we think trade agreements and things like that could help with. And that's extremely important for Texas because in addition to being, I love saying we've been CEO's Magazine top state for 21 years. For 13 years, Governor Abbott has won the Governor's Cup for the state with the most CapEx investment in the state. But we've also been the top export state for over 20 years, and we export more semiconductors and tech products than any other state. So, obviously we have great companies, Dell, AMD, Tesla. We have a lot of companies that are connected to this area that I would say is physical AI. And the more that the U.S. AI tech stack wins, the more Texas will win. So I would encourage everyone, for starters, the homework assignment, please read the America's AI Action Plan. I think it's AI.gov because I do think it's connected to why we're here today. On the state level, David, the main things that we've been working on when you think about physical AI is that we want to make sure on the workforce level we have the talent necessary to compete. So this year in the Texas legislature, it was record investment for our K through 12 education system. It was about an $8.5 billion plus up, and a huge part of that goes into career and technical education, dual enrollment, to make sure our kids in the high school level are learning the skills that they need to succeed in this new world. And another piece of this was a continuation of something that passed a few regular sessions ago, and that was to increase community college fundings, $650 million, but the new dollars were all connected to credentials of value. Because we want to make sure that as students and our young people move up the education food chain, that they're learning skills that will lead to employment. The states also invested quite a bit in higher education, because one way to frame it, and this is I think another important point for businesses looking at where to locate, is that the state this last legislative session, we have a $24 billion budget surplus. California, by contrast, has a $12 billion budget deficit. So Texas arguably has a greater budget surplus than if you added in every other state. If you added in the 49 other states and you added deficits and surpluses, we're probably ahead of the 49 other states combined. That just gives a sense of the strength of the Texas economy. And I should also just say, in terms of the strength of the Texas economy, because I think it's important just to understand the full picture. It's the most diversified economy in the country. There's no one sector that has over 10% of our economy. Not energy, not healthcare, not manufacturing, not finance. It is an extremely diversified economy. And I think that that's important, because when we talk about physical AI and we talk about the new opportunities and the production gains, we have an economy, ag is a very big sector. We have an economy that's really ripe for all these different technologies that are likely to emerge to really increase our state's GDP. A few other things that I think are also important to keep in mind is it's helpful that we have, my opinion, the best economic development governor, Governor Abbott, who has also put together a great economic development team. And if you haven't, for all the companies here, I hope that you've had the chance to work or become acquainted with the work of Adriana Cruz, who runs Governor Abbott's economic development program, because she works very closely with every economic development corporation and really every chamber in the state to bring people together so that Texas is always competing as a state. She loves saying that economic development is a team sport. She's right. I come from another great state, Arizona, that does a good job, very good job in economic development. But the secret sauce for Texas is the size, the diversity of our economy, and the fact that we're all working together. And you'll hear from the great mayor of Cedar Park soon. And I think what this manifests itself is in great companies like Firefly and others choosing Texas as the place to grow and expand. We're also, and I think this is important as well, when we talk about physical AI and AI in general, it's a novel area. So we want to make sure that we have, and I think this is an important point as we look for companies to grow, headquarter, and scale here. We have, through Governor Abbott and the state legislature, in a bipartisan way, because one of the things that I like to also point out is the policy stability and durability in the state of Texas. Almost all the bills and a few of the other appropriation things I'm going to talk about passed with almost unanimous support. Doesn't happen in DC. I think there may be a shutdown there. In Texas, both parties actually work very, very well together on the major items that count for the state. But one of the things where the parties came together was a few years ago, was the establishment of business courts. And built on that, this past regular legislative session, was increased funding to enhance the business courts, but to also put into Texas law, good law that will protect boards and companies that are making decisions. Specifically, I'm talking about a bill, SB 29, that what it does is it says that the law of Texas is that we've adopted something called the business judgment rule. That means activist judges can't replace the decisions of corporate boards. Why is that important? Because Delaware courts have been getting very creative and very anti-board and disruptive in how they've been handling a lot of business cases. And Tesla is a pretty good example of that in terms of interference in sound board decisions. So Texas now has something called the business judgment rule. The other thing Texas law has that is very important in our view is that it limits what a few activists, quote-unquote investors can do in terms of disturbing companies. Meaning you need a significant threshold for investors to challenge a board. These are two areas that are very important for the state, and as a result, what we're seeing as we speak are companies reincorporating into the state of Texas. Dillard's being a prime example. Obviously, we've heard Tesla and SpaceX doing that as well. But again, as we're talking about the litigation environment and making sure that Texas is a friendly place, making sure we have business courts with very good judges that could write good case law to protect boards in this novel area, I think is going to be very, very important. And in fact, the governor just held a big event with the Texas Economic Development Corporation on Circle T Ranch, it's a ranch associated with Ross Perot Jr. And the whole theme of that was Y'all Street, was the fact that Texas is going to be the leader when it comes to our capital markets. In fact, the New York Stock Exchange just opened up a major operation in Dallas, NASDAQ as well, and now we have the New York Stock Exchange. And we actually have more finance jobs by a lot in Texas than New York. I'll also just say, on the legislative front, I'd say probably the top items. I mentioned some of the community college and education things, but we're also investing, when you think about physical AI and AI in general, there's just the enormous amount of energy that's required. ERCOT has estimated that we're going to need 70% more energy at peak by 2030 than today. Think about that for a second, 70%. Mr. Mayor, someone told me, I don't know if this is true, someone told me that amount is basically the amount of energy, the new energy required is about the amount of energy, David, that Mexico uses today. Yeah, I should be fact checked. We'll ask Brock for if I'm right on that. So the reason why I say that is that Texas is also investing in energy. We're putting $350 million into advanced nuclear. Governor Abbott has made it clear he wants the state to be the advanced nuclear small modular reactor capital of the country. As we speak, there's a nuclear summit going on right now. We've invested a lot in natural gas, but also important just to think through is we're number one in wind and solar. That's very important. Our mantra is all the above and below. We need every electron, and the battery piece of this is incredibly important. And let's give Zach Dell and his team great credit. Base Power is a fantastic company. They just raised $1 billion, and that's not to mention all the good work that Tesla is doing in developing its batteries as well. So, Texas is very well positioned when it comes to making sure we have the energy needed to compete in the world of AI. The other thing I'll say is R&D. The state just permanently extended, Senator Bettencourt led the charge, great senator from the Houston area. We just permanently extended our R&D tax credit, and we made it more usable for startups and venture capital. How so? It's now refundable based off of the franchise tax, and you can carry it forward for 20 years. So for all our friends in the venture community, and I know in the mayor's great city, Cedar Park, Texas, Venture Alliance just held a Texas Venture Fest. For all those startups out there with a great idea, that R&D tax credit is usable because of the way it has been changed. Because we also believe that it's very important for all of our policies to benefit companies of all sizes, particularly the startups that are venture backed that could use a little additional state support. I'll mention just a few other things. We're also investing in the Texas Cyber Command. We know with everything going on in AI, we need to make sure we have defenses. Because our economy is doing so well, we've become a target. So we've invested well over $100 million into that effort. I mentioned the water infrastructure piece. We're also putting a lot of money into space and semiconductors. The state, I think, has re-upped about $250 million into the semiconductor fund, and that helps supplement the federal CHIPS Act. So in all these areas, Texas is really leading in investment. Wanted to quickly touch on, I would encourage all of those, for a number of the things that I've talked about, we have ballot initiatives coming up in November that we're going to need support on. The ones, and these are on our sites, textbiz.org. Proposition 1 is very important. This is to help create a permanent endowment for Texas State Technical College. They do a great job of training workers for our employers, and it's basically those colleges only get paid based on the results of the wages that their employees earn. Also important to investment, and I'm not going to go over all the numbers of this, but I want to just talk about 3 ballot props before I close. And these are, to me, the big 3 when it comes to investment and creating a great business environment for physical AI and just business in general and venture in general. The big 3 are we're going to have ballot initiatives to ban capital gains taxes. That's pretty important for all those companies, whether it's Firefly or whatnot, that are going to strike it big. We want them to strike it big in Texas and not another state where you're going to have a very hefty tax bill. The second one is it bans taxes on stock transactions. Believe it or not, New York has a law on the books that's been there for a long time to tax all stock transactions and financial transactions. The legislature has suspended it, but there's always a threat it will reemerge. So Texas is on the verge, if voters approve to ban all taxes on stock transactions. So if you're trading whatever, Firefly, Tesla, what have you, you don't have to worry about being taxed in Texas. And the final, the third one that we think is really important is a ban on death taxes or estate taxes. So as you accumulate wealth, as your businesses do well, you don't have to worry about those funds being taxed upon a passing. There's another one that I think is important for a lot of small companies. I was part of the Governor's Small Business Freedom Council, and we're going to increase the exemption if voters approve for on business inventory, the business inventory exemption from $2,500 to $125,000. That's a big deal for a lot of smaller companies that won't have to worry about even filing on business property if they're under that threshold. I probably have over $2,500 of Apple products on my person right now, so it's close to it. So those are the big things, and David, I would just say that we have great leadership in the state of Texas that wants to see the state of Texas succeed in this area. We have worked very closely, for example, with Senator Ted Cruz, who chairs the U.S. Senate Commerce Committee. That's very important. It oversees over 40% of the U.S. economy, including AI, including space, including semiconductors, including advanced mobility. So we have a lot of good strengths in this state. And David, I don't know if there's any time for questions, comments, or insults, but if there is, I'm happy to take a few. I want to thank Jason Sharp, who has a great podcast. And I also want to give you all my cell phone if you have any follow-up. Our chief job is on the policy side, so if you see any sort of things that are a policy impediment, just text me at 737-336-6590, 737-336-6590. I'm pretty good with text. If you email it, my spam filter isn't very good. I might not get back in touch, but if you text me, I will. I have a platform called Tech Means Business, which Megan Morrow from our office does a great job running. I would say we're the leading voice on the business side and I think that was HB 149 by Gio Caprileone, and Senator Parker played a major role in the Senate. Both do a very good job of reaching out to companies. I'll just say it flat out. The stakeholder process was intense, and if you weren't engaged, I'm just going to simply respectfully say it's important to be engaged. It doesn't have to be with us. We'd love for it to be with the Texas Association of Business, but there were many different chambers. I think Opportunity Austin played a huge role in the stakeholder process. Austin Chamber, TechNet. So they're always willing to listen. Now, Chairman Caprileone is retiring, but Senator Parker, I'm glad you mentioned, I really appreciate you mentioning Senator Dan Parker. I think he's going to be the leading voice in the Texas legislature on tech going forward. And he also has an open door policy. He was the keynote speaker at he was the opening speaker at Governor Abbott's Texas Economic Development Corporation Summit in Dallas that I mentioned. But, I'll give you my card as well. Let's talk through that. So, Senator Cruz, it's a very important point that you're making. We would support national standards. That's what we want to see. We would love to see something on the federal level, more along the lines of what Senator Cruz, if you Google what Senator Cruz is talking about on the federal level, it's basically he wants to give companies, he wants to unleash American ingenuity in this area. This is something Senator Cruz says that I think is extremely important. And he doesn't spend, I know Senator Cruz well enough, he doesn't necessarily give Bill Clinton compliments all the time, but he talks about during the Clinton White House, and I was there. So 30 years ago, I put some goofy stuff on Instagram. I was on Capitol Hill when the internet was coming up. And the United States, basically under Bill Clinton's leadership and a Republican Congress, said, we're not going to regulate. We're not going to let the states over-regulate the internet. Europe went in a completely different direction. So fast forward to today, the European economy is 40%, 35% smaller than the US. How many people here think like Mississippi is going and blowing? I love Mississippi. I'm not anti-Mississippi. The economy of Mississippi, per capita GDP, is greater than basically just about any European country. It's because we made a smart policy thing. And a smart policy decision. I personally believe that if we let it rip on AI with certain guardrails, we don't want deep fakes and that kind of stuff and fraud, the U.S. economy will truly reach a 3-4% growth rate. That's my personal opinion. And I'd love to follow up with you on that. David, you're a visionary. Appreciate the chance to be here this morning. And I love that slide of Mexico and Texas. It's one of my favorites. Thank you.
Thank you.